Hey guys, Coasters Worldwide here, and today I'm going to be doing a commentary of my top 10 roller coasters in England. Now, I'm going to be explaining all my opinions on the coasters and stuff, so yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so number 10 is Solar Ride at Thorpe Park. Now, this coaster's great fun, and I really enjoy it, but it can be really rough at some parts, especially at the bottom of the first drop, and the entrance and the exit to the Immelman are pretty rough too. But overall, it's a nice coaster, and one of my favourites at Thorpe Park actually, even though it's really rough. I also, spoilers ahead, I prefer the Smiler to this, seeing as the Smiler's less rough and kind of more jolty, I guess. But still, this coaster's nice. This dive loop here, that's horrible. It's so rough. But yeah, overall it's a nice coaster, and the indoor section's great too. So now number 9 is Mumbo Jumbo at Flamingoland. I've only ridden this coaster once, so I don't have the best judgment, I guess. And it was also when I was around 11, 12-ish. So about 2 years ago, and it was on a school trip, and I was semi-GP. But from what I remember, I really enjoyed this coaster. It was smooth, the drop was amazing, the the dive loop, I guess that's what it is, but it goes around it really slowly. That gives great hang time, and the outward bank turn is nice. But overall it's a great coaster, and I also really like the look of it off-ride with the small cars and how it glides around. But yeah, some people say it's got pacing issues, but I don't think it does. I don't seem to mind it, if I'm honest. And it's also, despite being cloned, it feels like really quite a unique and quirky ride, which is why I've also placed ahead of Soar. So 8 is Revolution at Blackpool, sorry. Now, I didn't enjoy this coaster much on my first ride. I found it quite boring and not forceful, but then when I rode it on the back, I absolutely loved it. It was so intense, so forceful, and despite being like short, it was still really, really good. I didn't get as many rides as I'd like to at Blackpool, especially not on coasters like this in the Grand National, as I was with one of my friends and we kind of prioritised the big one in Fusion because they're his favourite rides. But I still did get a couple of rides on this and a couple on the Grand National, which was good. But yeah, the backwards section right here is really forceful too. The loop is incredible. Probably the best loop I've experienced on a coaster, I guess. Maybe Nemesis is better, but I don't know. That one backwards is great. Okay, number 7 is Oblivion at Alton Towers. Let me tell you a story. This is my dad's favourite roller coaster. But yeah, well, I went onto this with super high expectations, and I guess the drop lived up to it. But it's still a really, really short coaster. Like, it lasts about 5 seconds overall. No, maybe a bit more than that, like 10. But I just wish there was more on the end of it. Like, I just wish it was longer, and I understand it was the first dive and everything, but still, it's just really, really short. But it's still an amazing coaster. The drops are great. So forceful. Okay, so at number 6 is a Grand National at Blackpool. Now, right, before I get into the coaster, please ignore the music. Well, like, as if it doesn't exist or something, because I was in a rush, and I actually hate the music that I put onto it. Well, I mean, I don't hate the music, I just hate how it fits with the coaster, which is like, not at all. But anyway, into the coaster. This was such a surprise for me. I'd not heard too much about it before I went to Blackpool. Like, I hadn't heard any reviews, I hadn't heard what people thought about it. So I just kind of went into it expecting not much, just like an old classic Woody, rough. My expectations were absolutely blown. The drop, it's literally a double down. You get standing air time over pretty much every hill. You go flying out of your seat, and the restraint doesn't like touch your legs. Well, mine didn't. Mine barely touched my legs. and my seatbelt was super loose, so that didn't do anything, so I could pretty much stand up on it. So it was absolutely incredible, and I just wasn't expecting it at all. And also the racing aspect to the coaster too, that's quite nice. If you got a friend on the other car or family or something like that, it's pretty nice because you can race them and I don't know, just be competitive or something. It's also a really old coaster. You can probably tell that by the track and the support. It looks a bit, I don't know, like rotted, I guess. Like, it looks all worn down, like run down. I think it really needs some TLC, I guess. But don't ruin the ride. Like, don't put like restraints that are more secure, or like, I don't know, just don't ruin the ride, please. And as you see here, the ending, it's literally just mad. Out of your seat, every single hill, you go flying. And this is also isn't one of the best POVs. It shows on quite a slow day. So on a quick day, which was like when I went, literally it flies around it, holes. And there's also a Mobius loop coaster, which is nice. Okay, so now number 5 is Stealth at Thorpe Park. Now, I've got a feeling some people will think that the coaster ahead of this should be switched with this. But personally, I don't know, I just prefer Rita to Stealth. But, oh, spoiler. But Stealth is still a great ride. The launch is amazing. The top hat gives great views, and it's also quite forceful on the way up and down. And I just think I went with really high expectations. The airtime hill in the end does actually give some airtime on the back row, not loads, but it does give a bit. But this coaster is definitely a front row ride. It's so much better. That launch, it's incredible. And yeah, it's just a nice ride. I think I went in with really high expectations for this, thinking it was like going to be the best ride in the UK, and it just wasn't. So maybe that's why it's lower on my list. But still, I really enjoy it. This is an old POV too, you can see Swarm is being built. So number 4 is Rita Rotten Towers. Now, this coaster, this was actually one of the only roller coasters that I've ever been scared to ride. Like before, I was around, I think I was like 8, the first time that I was tall enough to ride it. I was fine with pretty much everything else. But this, it just terrified me. So I didn't ride it that time. And then a year later when I came back, I did ride it, but I was actually terrified. Bear in mind I was like 9, but still, I was scared before it. But I don't know why, I actually love it. It's really quite forceful. The turns are like rapid, and it's quite whippy too. And it just feels like out of control, I guess. Like some other Intamin coasters I've heard do, such as like Skyrush, but this is nothing like Skyrush. This is like a just underrated, I guess. 3 is Smiler at Rotten Towers. Now this was when I first rode this, it was smooth as anything. Like it was buttery smooth, like no jolts, no nothing. Because I rode it on like near opening, like a week after or something. But there was actually no jolts. It was smooth, like it was amazing. If it was still like that now, I think it might be maybe number 1. But I don't know. But nowadays it's really jolty, really rough. It throws you around in all the elements like a bad way. But it's still really enjoyable. The inversions can be quite forceful, especially the Cobra roll. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, but the drops would have been nice if they were proper drops, not just like inverting drops, I guess. But they're still quite unique, I guess. And this coaster fits into the area like perfectly. It's all compact. I guess it kind of looks like kind of like a toy, if you know what I mean. People who have been to Autumn will know what I mean. It kind of looks fake, I guess, which I really like. And also the queue line, it's all underneath the actual coaster, which gives you great views, great footage. It's just really, really nice queue line. However, when I did go near opening, it was like a week after, as I've said, literally I had to queue 4 hours for it. Like, I had to queue half an hour before I got in, before like the park opened, and then like half an hour before I actually got into the queue, because it like came out of the overflow queue, and then 3 hours in the actual queue, and it was hell. But that time it was buttery smooth, and it was absolutely incredible. I was also 8 when I first rode it, so yeah, I've always been a coaster enthusiast, I guess. But yeah, nowadays it's just more jolty, especially this first corkscrew there. The second one isn't as bad, but it's still quite jolly throughout the whole ride. But anyway, I just enjoy it, you know? Okay, so number 2 is Nemesis. And when I first rode Nemesis, I didn't think much of it. Like, I didn't, yet again, it was a long time ago, but I thought it was the worst coaster at Alton Towers, if I'm honest with you. I thought, I thought Oblivion and Galactica, or Air as it was back then, were better than this. I don't know why, like, I honestly don't. But then, recently I went for Scarefest, and I got a back row in a ride in the dark, and it was incredible. Still not the best, still very overrated, like, above average invert, but like, not top 5 or anything. But it's still a really good coaster. It holds a great consistent force throughout the whole ride. Like, there's barely any points in it when you can think, oh, this isn't forceful, or this is boring. It's like always like a consistent force, even though that consistent force isn't as high as on other coasters, I guess. But yeah, it's also a little bit short. I wish it was a bit longer, I guess. But no, it's a fun ride. And the queue line in the area, how it all interacts, I love it. It's great. You can get some amazing footage. And overall, it's just a really good coaster. So now we're going to the bridge. But definitely not like the best invert or anything. I can tell from riding like Nemesis Inferno. Even though Nemesis Inferno is nowhere near as good as this, I can still compare it, I guess. And I know that it isn't as good as people say it is. Okay, so number 1 is the Swarm at Thorpe Park. Now, yes, this coaster is amazing. It's absolutely incredible. It's my number 1. And, wow. It's really, really forceful. Some people say it's forceless. I don't know, like, what coaster did you go on? Like, I always ride it in the back row, I guess. So maybe they've just ridden it in other rows. But at the bottom of the drop, like, I guess you could grey out. I've never done it, but you probably could. And you get great hang time going into the drop, as it is a wing over. But yeah, the 0G roll is nice. The near misses and the head choppers, they're great. My favourite element of this ride is the incline loop, as that's just super, super forceful. However, every element on this coaster is great. Like, it's just one after another. Like, I guess it's relentless, but I don't want to call it relentless because this coaster are much, much better than this. But it's still an absolutely great ride, super underrated, and yeah, it's my number 1 and definitely the best coaster in England in my opinion. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and yeah, see you in the next video.